Okay, so I know I'm very late to this, but since I'm doing trailer breakdowns now, and I'm about to do a breakdown of the new End of Dragons expansion trailer, I figured I would also jump back and do a breakdown of the first teaser, so here we go.
This land.
Alright, so right away we have this arena thing here. This looks a lot like the starting area from Factions, which is on Xingji Island, and obviously we're well aware by this point it's Cantha. And it also has a lot of the matching architecture style.
It's a monument to mortal resilience.
Alright, let's just stop here for a second. Obviously we've got some more Canthan architecture here, especially with this serpentine dragon. But from the way we're flying through this city, it looks like we're viewing this from the point of view of a dragon, particularly with these ley line looking things at the edge of its vision.
They built new lives upon the very thing that sought to end theirs.
So we've got this dragon here who is Kunavang. We know that from the end of the trailer, which you'll see in a moment. But she's saying that the humans, presumably the Canthan ones, built a life on the very thing that sought to end theirs. Perhaps linking to the idea of them being the empire of the dragon. Maybe they based their entire culture around knowledge that they uncovered about the dragons themselves and about the deep sea dragon. But also, as we see in the new trailer for End of Dragons, they seem to have based a lot of their technology around all of the magical jade in the Jade Sea. And it's unclear how much of that jade is left, because we do know that it was turning back into water ever since it was first turned into jade. And for those who don't know, the Jade Wind was an event that happened before Guild Wars 1, in which Shiro Tagachi, the villain from the Factions campaign, accidentally corrupted and twisted a ritual that was devoted to worshipping the goddess Dwayna. It was called the Harvest Festival. So he killed the Emperor during that while he was imbued with all of Dwayna's magic, and then the power linked to Shiro himself, and long story short, it created a magical explosion which created the Jade Sea, and it turned the Akavald Forest to stone. So all of this jade and stone and so on is very magical in its source. And we can also see that this conversation that's in this trailer between Kunavang and Bubbles, the deep sea dragon, it seems very focused around the nature of mortal creatures. And the Icebrute saga touched on some similar material in the differing perspectives between Aurene and Jormag on their understanding of mortals and their worth. So it's interesting to see this conversation is carrying over to End of Dragons, possibly with Kunavang, Bubbles, and Aurene. Got some more dragon imagery here, although this seems more like a lion or something. I'm not entirely sure, but we've definitely got, again, some serpentine dragon themes here.
Mortals are little flames, brilliant, hot, then gone. Those who face eternity
You can very clearly see this is the Jade Sea, and it's not melted down to water, at least not entirely. So you can see this is this green jade here, which is formed into waves. So this is apparent confirmation that the Jade Sea, in some capacity, will be returning to Guild Wars 2.
We forget what a lifetime means.
We can even see a bridge built through the jade, which is an odd concept, or maybe it's like, is it a bridge? Maybe it's the top of like a building, but perhaps this is representing that maybe underneath here, that's actual water, and over here, this is solid jade. So maybe what we'll be having is a partially melted Jade Sea, which forms into like these little islands and so on.
What an ending means.
So here we have a very apparent contrast between Bubbles, the deep sea dragon whose name starts with an S, but everyone just calls him Bubbles. We have a contrast between Bubbles and Jormag. Because Jormag, the implication was it was to some extent corrupted, which may have decreased its ability to feel compassion. But also just the sheer length of Jormag's lifespan, she didn't seem to even understand the concept of caring for mortals, which is an interesting idea. If someone lived forever and just constantly watched these people living seemingly insignificant lives and then dying, could you feel empathy for them? Because do you, like, the average person, do you feel empathy when you step on an ant? Like, you might be like, oh shit, sorry. Like, at worst, I feel most people are like, oh crap, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And then they move on with their life and they completely forget about it. That, to me, has always felt what it must be like for an immortal being in fantasy settings, just axing humans left and right. And so, Jormag always felt to me like she had that perspective. But it seems here, we have an Elder Dragon, despite supposedly being just as corrupted as any of the other ones we've dealt with, that seems to hold mortals with a great deal of respect. So that plus Cantha's apparent reverence for the dragons themselves, could that mean that Bubbles is a much more benevolent Elder Dragon? And if so, are we even fighting Bubbles? I mean, why are we even going to Cantha?
Those who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means. What an ending means.
We'll get a better look of this dragon as it goes on. It looks like this is Kunavang. We know Kunavang had a very serpentine form like this, like a salt spray dragon in the first game. It wasn't anywhere near as flashy, but obviously they can redesign things for Guild Wars 2. And also there's been so much magic rocketing around the planet of Tyria since the events of Guild Wars 1, and we know that absorbing magic can affect a dragon's appearance. We've seen it in the way Aurene has evolved, and we also saw it quite interestingly with Primordius, how absorbing so much foreign magic and then refining it back into his own magic and trying to, in a sense, counter the sheer pain and instability that happened to Krakatoa Krakatoric, the very act of doing that seemed to have distorted the form of Prime Mortis very significantly. So we know that absorbing and processing magic can definitely affect a dragon's appearance.
No, it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavang. It does. They need me.
Okay, the way that it's saying they need me could be focusing on the fact that this might be the character that's talking. And I think the other character talking is Bubbles. It is the Elder Dragon. And this is a view of Kunavang herself. And a very interesting concept there. So it seems Kunavang is saying, you know it doesn't have to be this way, and the Elder Dragon is responding, no, Kunavang, it does. So it seems Kunavang is saying mortals don't have to be like this. They don't have to be these brilliant little flames that go away and die. So perhaps Kunavang is arguing for some form of immortality for the previously mortal creatures of Tyria. I mean, could that be dragon corruption? Or perhaps she's arguing that it doesn't have to be this way in the sense of immortal creatures not caring for the lives of mortal creatures. And in that sense, perhaps the Elder Dragon responding, no, Kunavang, they need me. Perhaps this dragon is saying, no, the Elder Dragon cycle, it needs to exist, it needs to happen. So with the takes on the other Elder Dragons and their reasons for doing things, we've seen with Jormag, it looked like it was this struggle for power and desire to be free from Prime Mortis, whereas Zhaitan, Prime Mortis, and Krakatoric especially seem to be these rabid animals that couldn't stop consuming magic. And it seems here with Bubbles, Bubbles believes that it is achieving some form of higher purpose. And we know that the Elder Dragon cycle is very essential for maintaining the balance of the planet of Tyria. So a big tagline for this expansion is the cycle is reborn, in reference to the Elder Dragon cycle. So perhaps Kunavang, similar to Glint, is arguing, no, we can figure out a new way of doing this, a kinder way of doing this. And Bubbles, the Elder Dragon, is saying, no, I know this can't be done, this is the way it has to happen. But that also kind of counters what I was saying earlier, that perhaps the Canthons have a lot of reverence and love for this dragon and it treats them benevolently. Is there some sort of balance between the two? Is this Elder Dragon to some extent protecting Cantha and in trying to instill in their culture this respect and reverence for dragons and the Elder Dragons, and it might attack everything else? Regardless, the motivations of the dragons are very mysterious, and ArenaNet going into more depth about what makes them tick is one of my favorite parts of the franchise.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavang. It does.